Well, good morning, everybody. All right, before we dig into this multi-hazard weather system, actually pair of weather systems coming into the United States, giving us a 5-day risk of severe storms through the central U.S. all the way to the East Coast, we need to kind of look back at the most recent precipitation pattern to assess where things are going, because we do know there's going to be major flooding that will come right into this area. I'm talking 6 to 10 inches of rain, possible some places more than that, especially right into this corridor here. We are expecting very heavy snow, where lately we've seen a huge ice storm hit the northern parts of the United States, including Wisconsin and Michigan, and we've got more snow coming back for parts of Minnesota. We have the wildfire risk today in parts of Texas, Oklahoma, but I just wanted to start somewhere with this, and I want to make a point. Last week I talked about how March throughout much of the West, especially at the West Coast, was quite wet. We saw multiple onshore flow events that pushed extra snow into the mountains. I just want to give you a number. Why I've been calling it a miracle March is that, right now in California, the reservoir system is 115% of historical average. I say that and understand that not all of you experience that kind of March in the West. I'm just looking at the overall water health, because I have gone through all the hydromet data for parts of Washington, Oregon, and Idaho, and notice that there are some reservoirs that are desperately going to need this spring melt to get them back up to where they need to be. Now, good news is this was a winter where the mountains here in British Columbia, which are the headwaters for the Columbia River, took on great snow. But just take a look. Over the last week, we were dry throughout big sections of the Northwest, including parts of Idaho, eastern Washington, and then there are sections of Montana that are doing great on moisture and sections that are not. And this just gets us into a broader discussion about how dry things have been here, not just in the last 7 days, but over the last several months. And we just worry about drought building out of regions into other regions going forward. Now, this map has always got a 1-day lag on it. And the reason for that is they do a quality control, so they release it a day later. So, of course, we've filled in some of this region here with some rainfall. If you just have a quick look, though, around a couple of areas, I did want to show you that recent system that went through the northern plains, the one that produced that massive ice storm that came into parts of the upper Midwest, it did, in terms of a 7-day total, it was 5-6 times normal amount of precipitation during that time frame. And I want to bring this up because we're going to put more snow on the headwaters of the Mississippi River coming in very soon, and also some more snow on the headwaters of the Missouri, because in a few minutes I'm going to talk about flooding down here on the Mississippi River, and I want you to see that. Take note that this last system did missed this area in Illinois and Iowa, and we are going to fill this into the south here, but there's a large chunk in Kansas and Nebraska that's missing. I'll be tonight in Kearney. I got to fly this afternoon over to Omaha and drive out to Kearney, and I really want to see this area along I-80 just to see how dry things have been in this area, because there have been at times good moisture, better moisture that's gotten into this area, but I just want to take a look at it myself, so I'll be there this afternoon. Okay, one other thing to kind of point out here. If you come farther to the south, do take note of just the expansive dry area that's here. This isn't 7 days old. This is months old. We had one system back in early March that went right through here that helped, but since then we've been very, very dry. And this is where our big risk area is going to be today. While parts of southern Texas, way down here, we have some places that are at 20 times their normal rainfall just in the last week. Okay, so that's way down here at Brownsville. All right, severe storm risk is going up, and I wanted to show you real quick where we've been. We've got some new storm updates. Unfiltered reports, we're now at 739 reports for the 30th, and we continue to see more storm reports coming in from this high-impact storm system. Those storms did last night finally make their way all the way to the East Coast, which is why we filled in that hole that I showed you a moment ago on the map, which is good. We needed to get some more moisture over into this area. So just looking through 7 a.m. Eastern time this morning at the last 48 hours of precipitation, we can see parts of Georgia, North and South Carolina did get some of this moisture, but there are still holes in Virginia and North Carolina. And after having such a very wet late winter, Virginia, West Virginia, Ohio, they've gone over dry, so is Pennsylvania. So seeing some of this moisture recently here, this is some of the first bits of moisture into this area in a very, very long time. Where we've set things up for a major flood event is going to be here. And we are going to be watching a multi-day severe weather outbreak that's going to come through this area. But before we get there, I just wanted to show you a couple of things. If we look, wrong way. If we look at our current map, it's called the rough sum map. It is where we look to see the total number of severe weather events we've seen so far this year. Again, we've got a story brewing that we need to see the typical April into May progression of taking storms, not just from this area, but starting to spread them into the plains. And that has been kind of this backstory to everything we've been discussing, with each system being so fast, they're opening up large dry slots in this area, keeping it so very dry, right? You just saw that. If this pattern can slow down, and I do have a system that's going to slow down and try to hit this area, okay? If we can get that to consistently happen, we can really begin to beat back on this drought risk that has been brewing in the plains for quite some time. All right, so that's going to be just one thing to think about. But while we're looking at severe weather, I did want to show you this. Where do we stand in terms of typical numbers? On tornadoes, average through this point in the year would be about 219. We're at 304. Just understand that the steepest slope in historical tornado count, running count number, starts in April and ends in June. So this is the busiest time of year for severe weather. That goes true for hail as well. We're actually right on our average for hail. And if you look at the wind reports, we're way above average on wind, more than double our typical wind reports. And each one of these systems has carried with it a tremendous amount of wind. Now, since we're talking about it, I do want to show you, here's the latest forecast for cumulative maximum wind gusts from the NAM model going all the way out there through Thursday afternoon. Now, these are not just thunderstorm-based winds. This is synoptic scale winds. So you can see how potent this system is going to be, leaving New Mexico, going through Texas, Oklahoma, Kansas, Missouri, Illinois, Indiana, and then setting up in the Great Lakes states. Very, very windy conditions coming through with this next system. But as it stands, today we're going to be watching Kansas. Later this afternoon, Kansas and Oklahoma is kind of our hot spot for the risk of severe storms. There is a surrounding area we'll keep an eye on as well, but just watch the progression of the Storm Prediction Center's outlooks. Here's today. This is tomorrow on Wednesday. Very large area here throughout parts of the Midwest through the Mid-South, all the way down to eastern Texas. And then we get out there to day 3, which would be Thursday. And it's the orientation of this that I want you to see. Remember how I keep going on about this stalled out boundary in this area? Why is it there? There's ridging to the south, and the system flows along that boundary, and so it leaves its front. So as it curls up here, and I'll show you the ice threat and snow threat into Ontario and Quebec in a moment, the boundary just doesn't penetrate this far south to get through toward this bigger ridge, okay? So that's the setup. So look, that's day 3. Day 4, where's the risk? Day 5, where's the risk? It continues to sit there all the way through Saturday night. So again, day 4 would be Friday, day 5 would be Saturday. So multiple 5-day severe weather threat across the central and eastern United States, central, mid-south into the southeastern United States. But we come back to this story on total precipitation here. And again, we've got a few key areas to watch. Snow here. We're going to watch a system attempt to bring not only snow but rain down here into this part of Texas. This is desperately needed. We need to get more than this into Kansas. But if we could share what's going on here with more of the country, that'd be huge. Now look, see how dry Florida is? That's because you're too close to the ridge down here. And so that's why those thunderstorms I showed you yesterday that came through on Sunday were so critical to Florida. Now let's just take this and zoom in somewhere. How about we just pick up on the southeastern United States view of this, because you're going to be able to see most of that. We do expect in this forecast for there to be a swath into here that picks up greater than 10 inches of rain. And I'm going to show you the influence of this on the Mississippi River and Ohio River in just a few moments, but I wanted to get that out there. Now, as I mentioned, on the northern side of this, we've got some snow. And the models seem to have honed in on this corridor for having the greatest risk of heavy snow. We're going to talk about ice coming back into this area in just a few moments. But remember, as this system comes through, Northern California, the Sierra Nevada mountains are able to pick up more snow. And then with the subsequent following deeper trough, we are expecting snow into the Rocky Mountains. And the models keep kind of tossing out this idea of bringing in snow into this corridor, which could get more into the high plains, maybe the panhandles and into Kansas even. So I'll show you that again in a few minutes. But with all that being said, remember, week 2, this whole thing dies, and we're still in this pattern of week on, week off through April. I still think that is the case. The issue is going to be, the reason why it's so dry in this area, it's going to be a large ridge that comes up and over and then out, leaving troughs of low pressure here, building in high pressure into this area with an upper level ridge axis right there. So you're saying, what does all that mean? Well, that means that you're going to get convergent flow coming out of the north and west. There's only one time of year where northwest flow makes storms in this area, and that's the middle of summer. So flows coming over the top like this, it's convergent in the upper atmosphere, which produces high pressure here. It's going to dry things out. We're going to desperately need that drier weather in this area to just recover from the flood risk that's coming here just in the next 7 days. So that is your big picture on things. Let's get into some of the details here. This morning, just after 6 a.m., we've watched the National Weather Service continue to expand the flood watch here. And this is probably going to get a bit larger, and I expect numerous flood warnings in this area. To the north, winter storm warnings stretching from parts of the Dakotas into northern Minnesota. Winter weather advisories get into parts of Wisconsin. On the backside, these are all related to wind, either wind watches and wind advisories, red flag warnings, or high wind advisories. We do have winter storm warnings that go throughout the Rockies, and remember, we are bringing this system through parts of California first. Stronger winds down here closer to the Mojave Desert, LA Basin, this part of Southern California. All right. From here, again, I'm super excited. I'm nearly finished with all the code to remake my mapping system. I hope you like it, and I hope you'll see why I like it. So let's go through this real quick. I'm just going to show you the NAM. We are on the CONUS view, the high-res NAM. It's got 3-kilometer resolution, and we're going to play this system forward through the rest of the day on Tuesday. So this is by Tuesday night, tonight, 7 p.m. Already watching heavy snow spread here. Watch right in through this part of Kansas for the NAM model to start to pop. There it is. Toss out these storms. The NAM is going after a relatively large squall line that's coming out of very, very southeastern Nebraska into Kansas here. So we need to be prepared for that late tonight into the overnight hours based on the current NAM's timing of this. Understand? So then as we go forward, getting into Wednesday, remember this is the day where we have this broad sector here of severe weather risk. 2 o'clock Wednesday afternoon, we'll just need to be watching for isolated rotating thunderstorms, and then we'll watch the main front come through as snow begins to spread much farther to the north here. Now, as we keep playing this forward, do you see it now, right? The ridge, the low, the stalled boundary. So this next system, it's hard to see in the map, but it's already here, and it's just going to come out and want to ride that same boundary. The reason why, there's a pressure trough here. So it's like it's cut a valley, and the low wants to feed on it. So it just comes right through the same area. It's guided by high pressure here. It's guided by high pressure to the north, and just goes right in between the two. So by the time we get into Thursday morning, through the rest of the day Thursday, watch what happens. It's that next wave on Thursday that opens up right here that starts to increase the risk of severe storms into this area. Now, what I want to show you with this is you can then flip over to see a couple of different things. Like, hey, let me see the snow from the model. So it loads relatively quickly, and this is the NAM generating snow. Okay? And then you're like, I got to see this ice. Well, here's the risk of ice on this thing. Watch, there it is. Ontario, Quebec, parts of, getting into Michigan, maybe a little bit more northern Wisconsin. There is, according to the high-res NAM, pretty good risk of ice developing on the southern side of this where you get your overrunning. But in terms of total precip, just have a look. Watch that boundary. Watch it stall right here. And that's where we're going to continue to watch these storms brew. Now, it's the second low that comes out that makes the problems. So you're saying, what? Okay, here's low number 1. This is the kind of the speed max, the jet streak on the southern side of that, promoting the depth of this low. But this is the much bigger. Look at the size of that wave. This is the low that's coming through California into Nevada, into Arizona, into New Mexico that ejects later this week. And this is all made possible. Remember, this has been our narrative for like 2 weeks by this big wave break event with a cutoff low to the south. Look at that. That's what's allowing this trough just to linger in this area for a while. So I need to show it to you. Ready? Now I'm going to put all my new maps in so you can see the ECMWF the same way you saw the NAM. It's coming up very soon. But look at this. Here's the first wave ejecting. That's the one that's going through today and tomorrow. Then here's the big one that comes behind it. Oh, sorry about that. Right there. And it's got staying power. So what you need to remember is when you come out of a trough, there's rising motion. And that's what you see here. So there's the trough, rising motion. See it? Here's the ridge, feeding. That's the moisture source. Now what I want you to get here is this trough doesn't move much from Thursday into Friday and Saturday. See that? It's just sitting there. So it's almost like just the end of a fire hose of upper level support in this region for just tossing out rising motion all the way through Saturday. And then the ribbon of vorticity sits here all the way through Sunday. And as a consequence, we're just looking at several days from now through Saturday and Sunday of rain right in through this area, fed on this ridge. And then after it, look, there's a little wave that moves through the flow. Okay, there it is right there. I'll show you what this one does, a little clipper. But there's the big western U.S. ridge, and there's the eastern U.S. trough, and there's the northwest flow killing the whole thing. You're going, wait a minute, I see a ribbon of vorticity. Of course you do. There's faster flow on this side and weaker on that side, but it's not going to be enough other than to spin up a little low in this area. All right, that is the dynamics of this system. So now we need to see what it looks like in the models. I'm very happy to see the models have found similar timing. GFS left, European right. Ready? This is getting us through the lead wave. There it goes. This is 7 a.m. Wednesday. So we have that severe storm risk on Wednesday. Then watch, the kicker wave, the back one, the bigger one comes out, rides through the pressure trough as the risk of ice develops here. Snow that came through parts of Minnesota, Wisconsin, is now into Ontario and Quebec, but much farther to the north. But there's the boundary on which this thing's going to sit. You'll notice snow coming through the Rocky Mountains. Look at this, okay? Out into possibly into the plains with the next big low. And where does it ride? I mean, it goes right on that same boundary. Where are we in time? This is Saturday, by the way. I just walked you through the end of the week. Both models are trying to put down some snow on the back side, which means we've got some cold air coming in behind this. And then the thing leaves. And once it's gone, this high pressure that builds in here is cold. And we're going to see where our frost line goes to the south with the cold air that's coming in on April 7th, 8th, and 9th. Because the pattern just goes over boring until you know what's going to happen. There's a little clipper. See it right there? It's in both models, a little different position, but there's that clipper coming on that ribbon of vorticity into this area. I love this forecast. This is a fun one. So if you want to see it again, ready? Just watch, I don't know, pick one model. I don't care what you pick. I always look over here at the right. I like the Euro. You all know that. Here it is, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, Monday. See, it finally clears by Monday, Tuesday. So let's get a look at some of the numbers. Let's start on the snow side. You've already seen the high-res European forecast. This is the AI forecast. Very similar overall. Okay? You then get into the GFS. Now remember, the GFS drops much colder air farther to the south, and it tries to bring in some snow here. This is a single model run. We're not going to hang on this. This is where I have the highest confidence, here through this area. Snow here, and the potential for that snow to sneak out into this corridor. You've seen it in both models, okay? This is the GFS. Let's go back. There's the European. All right? Probability-wise, total rainfall out of this is pretty insane. Now, we saw the map giving you the total rainfall from the WPC earlier. Put that up. But this is the chance at going over an inch. 90 to 100% chance here. This is 2 inches. Darn it. My timing is terrible with when I record for when the model updates. There it is. That's the chance over 2 inches. 90 to 100%. This is the chance at 4. 90 to 100% through here. Chance at 8. That's 50 to 70% chance of 8 inches of rainfall there. And I don't know, will anything show up at 15? Good. Nothing shows up at 15. But 8, 4, 2 inches, 1 inch. And who's drier? That's the chance at staying under half. So much of the Canadian prairie, much of the Intermountain West, why Big Ridge builds in. That makes a ton of sense. California Central Valley goes over drier. And we see there's a corridor in through here that we have to watch to see if it fills in, because we know north of it and south of it, we're getting the moisture. Now, the importance of all of this, let's go back to this map. The importance of all of this is where we currently have soil moisture deficits. So we are going to be starting to fill in some of this. This is going to get hit with some snow. It's this region in through here that is going to rely on this system coming out, the bigger wave, at the end of this to fill in that gap. We need to get moisture on top of this. All right? So why I think this is so important, I mentioned this earlier, is the Mississippi River since November, just take a look, which was down there 10 feet below low stage, has come up nearly 30 feet, right? Now it's just dropped here recently, but the forecast is for this to not just come back up, but to come way up above flood stage. I want to show you this. This is the Mississippi at Memphis. I like Memphis only because it's after the Missouri and after the Ohio come into it. So as you look at it, the Mississippi River through the next 16 days, look at the bottom graphic, are expected to get above flood stage here, which is 35 feet. So basically that river will have gone up 45 feet in depth, no joke, since November. And it does that. I mean, that's what this big river system does. But again, just we're trying to stitch this together and understand what this is doing. I'm just going to take you back to this. Where did I put that map? There it is. This is, again, our total precipitation map through the next 7 days that we're going to just continue to monitor. I like what the WPC came up with here. Okay, from that point, I want to talk to you about why week 2 goes drier again. So look at the length of staying power for this trough. There it is, just lingering and then finally out next Tuesday. What we see the atmosphere going into for the 10th, 11th, 12th is this is the week off. The trough now lingers off the coast, bigger ridge here that just slowly progresses. But this is going to be a source of cool air from the 7th, 8th, 9th, and 10th going across the eastern part of the United States. But during that same time frame, it's going to be dry. I've got every model dry, right? I mean, look at the new CPC update, just dry. That's what a ridge does. But we've got to talk about what this might mean in terms of temperatures, because yesterday the CPC released that the 8th and 9th, they've got this risk of hazardous temperatures, which is because we are past the typical frost date. Last frost date's down here, right? I mean, we're actually approaching the typical last frost dates for around 40 degrees north, right in through there, which is around April 15th through the 20th. So there's some cold air coming through, but remember, it's after the 7th. So when I show you these 7-day frost maps, remember that this cold air that's coming through is after that. So to show you a 10-day outlook, I'm going to go to the European model. Now, I normally walk you through the details of the day's temperatures, but you can go look at that on my website. I want you to see this. There's the warm sector opening up Wednesday. Look at that right there. That's Wednesday afternoon. Getting into Thursday, okay, and our next severe weather event here. But then watch. I'm going to play this quickly. Friday, Saturday. Can you just see the boundary? It's just right there. And that's it. Man, this is kind of neat. That's Saturday. Now watch. Sunday, the colder air comes in. Monday, the trough develops deeply here. Tuesday, the cutoff sneaks in. Remember that one? Not the cutoff, the clipper. And here's what we're going to watch. This is Monday afternoon, Tuesday morning. There it is. So I'm thinking that we could, on the 8th, bring a frost line pretty far to the south here. And remember, this is still 180 hours out, so this is going to modify with each new forecast. But that's currently where the frost line is setting up by the 8th, the morning of the 8th. Now, we moderate after that. Goes east. See, the colder air dives into the eastern United States. So we do need to pay attention to parts of Virginia, North Carolina for the risk of a frost event. But you did notice that, right? Let's go back in time. There it is, early Tuesday morning. We got the risk coming through. So something to think about here. I went and pulled up the data for Birmingham because that's kind of on that, really on that edge down here. And while we're going to be hitting 90 on Friday, okay, let's kind of jump down here and look at the temperatures. So here's the consistent warm up through Friday and Saturday. There's the cold air that comes in, and we get down here and almost touch the frost zone, which I labeled between 32 and 36. So this is where some of the models are putting this colder risk, all right? If you just, again, look at the next 5 days, though, okay, Birmingham's very mild. We're in the warm sector. Why is the pattern just so fixated on this region? Simply because that's where the boundary is. Much colder from the Canadian Prairie into the west, into the upper Midwest northern plains. We then look at day 5 through 10. This is as the ridge begins to build in, so warmth returns to the west. This is the lingering cold, okay, April 6th to the 11th. And then we seem to go back into this week on where this whole pattern begins to progress again, moving this direction, opening up warmer air to this region. If during that time a high pressure cell sets up here, we're going to be talking about more severe weather in this area. And I think that's going to happen after the middle of the month. So, long story short, I have no different narrative for you through April. I think it's week on, week off. But now you've seen some of that frost threat we've been trying to nail down. So here's the next week. There's week 2, right? We've seen this now. Week 3 opens back up. See it there? And then maybe at the end of April, it's week off again. I'm not sure. But that's what the models are currently doing. And temperature-wise, here's right now the next 7 days. You know we're going to get quite cold, week 2. And then we're going to watch a warm-up happen. Okay, so there it kind of is going toward the middle of the month. But the model just loves this persistence problem it has with keeping cooler here and very warm in this area. And I don't trust these model forecasts on temperature. I can show you this. Let's just blow this up so you can maybe see it easily here. Here's week 1 and week 2. So there's week on, week off. Cold west, hot southeast. Flip them for week 2. Week 3, week 4. Look, week 3 on, week 4 maybe off down here. But notice how the CFSV2 is trying to keep the northern tier of the United States a bit wetter. but they're all going to lose their temperature signal as we approach the end of the month. I just don't think any model has picked up on it. Neither have I. All right. Where I want to finish with this, though, is that yesterday, let's shrink that back up, the Climate Prediction Center released its new outlook for the month of April. And if you're curious how to read this, they don't see strong signals either. That's important. I mean, April's a hard month to predict, and I don't see signals. I don't think they do either, because notice, where are they dry right now? Well, they're dry here this next week and flooding there. And so they're saying, well, April may finish that way, may look that way because of how polarizing this first week is. Where we warm? South, southwest. I showed you the cool intrusions coming through twice into this area. So I can't complain. No one can complain because one map cannot capture 1 month's volatility. But what I think is going to be most important in this whole thing comes back to this map right here. Does this area finally bring in, with this next system, enough moisture to beat back this risk and buy time? Because right now they're still in the drought development likely through June 30th. Okay. All right, yesterday we dug a little deeper into South America. Today I'm just going to give you the latest update and we'll wrap this video up. Next 10 days, there's just kind of this stalled out frontal boundary here. That's where your best moisture is. We are drier in Argentina, drier back in eastern Brazil. But if I could show you something, 90% of the Safrinha crop is grown there. So that Safrinha corn is not in trouble with this next 10-day forecast. So we'll keep an eye on it and see if anything shifts around in South America that's worth talking about. But I think in the United States, we're taking over as the dominant weather story for some of our big crops in the world, and we'll continue to monitor that. All right, have a good one. We'll just chat again tomorrow. Thanks.